Okay, so I'm sharing my screen.
హాస్పిటల్కి వెళ్ళారు, పొద్దున్న వాకింగ్కి వెళ్ళారు ఇక అంతే.
सर ये
Yeah. Yes, somebody is asking a question.
सर ये एफ्लुएंस जो है वो थोड़ा समझ में नहीं आया था, थोड़ा दोबारा बता देंगे एक बार?
कौन सा
एफ्लुएंस।
एफ्लुएंस? ओके ओके ओके, हाँ
यस
बता दो।
यस सर।
हाँ हाँ हाँ, ठीक है। सो बेसिकली जो एफ्लुएंट मतलब इट इज अ काइंड ऑफ लिक्विड वेस्ट और विच इज कंटामिनेटेड लिक्विड। जो भी फॉर एग्जांपल हम जो पानी प्रोसेस में यूज करता है, जो पानी केमिकल के साथ मिक्स होता है, ओके। और कभी कभी जो पानी हम लोग जो हमारे रिएक्टर हो गया, जो फिल्टर्स हो गया, एएनएफडीज हो गया, जो भी इक्विपमेंट को वॉश करने के लिए यूज करता है, सो दीज ऑल आर contaminated water. When it is contaminated, it is contaminated with the chemicals or oils or etc., which can't be used directly. Those called as effluent. It is nothing but a liquid wastewater or waste, liquid waste.
Sir,
In this, there are two types. Yeah.
sir, water which is coming from sinks, wash basins. So can we call it as effluents?
Yes, those are domestic effluents. Two types: process effluents and domestic effluents. Now I am giving example of process effluent where it is interacting with your process. When I talk about domestic, the wastewater which is coming from your toilets, the basins or kitchens, etc. Those are a domestic effluent. Clear, Mohammed?
Yeah, clear, sir.
Okay, yeah. सो अमित, सो बेसिकली जो भी पानी हम लोग प्रोसेस में यूज करते हैं, जो फैक्ट्री ऑपरेशंस में इन्वॉल्व होता है, जो जब यूज करते वक्त जो पानी है ना, वो केमिकल के साथ मिक्स होता है, ना तो केमिकल कंटामिनेशन होता है, नहीं तो ऑयल मिक्स होता है, जो पानी हम डायरेक्ट फिर दोबारा यूज नहीं कर सके, सो दोज वाटर विल गो थ्रू द ईटीपी ऑपरेशंस, एफ्लुएंट ट्रीटमेंट प्लांट, ओके। जो डोमेस्टिक का वेस्ट होता है, जो टॉयलेट से आता है, बेसिन से आता है, जो कैंटीन से आता है, दैट वाटर विल ट्रीट इन दी एसटीपीज, सीवेज ट्रीटमेंट प्लांट्स, ओके। मैंने इसे डोमेस्टिक, जो घर का जो वेस्ट है, मैंने इसे प्रोसेस एफ्लुएंट, दैट इज कम्स फ्रॉम योर एक्टिविटीज और मैन्युफैक्चरिंग प्रोसेस. इट मे बी मल्टीपल एक्टिविटीज. समटाइम्स ये खाली क्लीनिंग की वजह से भी जनरेट होता है. समटाइम्स जो प्रोसेस में जो पानी निकालता है, आई मीन एंड प्रोडक्ट में हम लोग पानी निकाल के जो प्रोडक्ट को लेता है, तभी भी वो इफ्लुएंट जनरेट हो सकता है. इट इज अ डिफरेंट टाइप्स ऑफ ऑपरेशंस इट विल जनरेट, ओके फाइन. So I'll share again. I don't know. Yeah. So here we are talking about ventilation temperature. So where we have to provide the proper ventilation and temperature. Okay. So as I mentioned, if your manufacturing process, the nature of work itself, it is creates in a extremely high temperatures, so that adequate measures has to be taken and also protect workers from separating those processes. So making partitions or making the process remote or remotely operated or a mechanized process, and also all the surfaces, okay, insulating the all the hard parts, so that we can able to effectively minimize the exposure. Okay. Here also again the state government may prescribe a standard or adequate ventilation and reasonable temperature for any factory or class of description of factories or parts thereof, and direct that a proper measuring instruments at such places in such positions as may be specified shall be provided, and such records has to be maintained. Okay, there we have to maintain the records for this ventilation and temperature records. Okay. If it is appears the chief inspector that excessively high temperatures in any factory can be reduced by adoption of suitable measures, he may, without prejudice to the rules made under the section 2, serve on the occupier or an order in writing or specifying the measures which is in his opinion should be adopted or requiring them to be carried out before any specified date. So sometimes whenever a factory's inspector comes in, if he feels okay the existing temperatures or ventilation is not sufficient, then he may suggest a few recommendations. So according to the recommendations, they can make the changes or they can take the actions. One second, guys. Okay, sorry, guys. Okay, whenever he feels it is need to be changed or any specific practices to be adopted, he will suggest what are the necessary corrections to be done. Then accordingly we have to execute. There they will mention or given in a letter or in written they will give the recommendations. Those has to be implemented. And next point is dust and fumes. So in every factory in which by reason of manufacturing process carried on, there is a given of any dust or fumes or other impurity of such nature and to such an extent as likely to injurious or an offensive to the workers employed therein, or any dust in a substantial quantities, effective measures shall be taken to prevent its inhalation and accumulation in any workroom. To make it simple, based on nature of your operations or manufacturing process, if you are generating any such dust or fumes, has to be effectively controlled by uh, putting the local exhaust ventilation systems and also natural ventilation systems, so that we can prevent the inhalation and also accumulation. Okay. Then in any factory, no stationary internal combustion engine shall be operated unless the exhaust is conducted into the open air, and no other internal combustion engine shall be operated in any room unless effective measures have been taken to prevent such accumulation of fumes therefrom as likely to be injurious to the health. So because these engines can generate so many the fumes, when you burn fossil fuels, what will happen there? It will generate carbon dioxide, nitrous oxide, and also sometimes if it is an incomplete combustion, there is a chance of carbon monoxide as well. So in case of such, it is a room, there it has to be taken appropriate measures. Okay, which means it will have a ventilation or it is directly connected outside the. Okay. Then we have artificial humidification. So in respect of any uh, all factories in which the humidity of air is artificially created. It means when you say humidity increasing the water content in the air. For example, if you see the coastal areas, especially coastal area which is nearby, there the atmospheric air is very humid. It is nothing but the water in the atmosphere is more. So sometimes what will happen, some of the operations deliberately create the humidity. If I'm not wrong, in the text industries we used to do this such practice. Okay. So prescribed standards are humidification regulating the methods and used artificially increasing the humidity of the air and directing prescribed determination of humidity of the air to be correctly carried out and recorded, prescribing methods to be adopted, securing the adequate ventilation and cooling of the air in the workrooms. So these are the few have to be followed. We should have standards on humidification, so how much you have to do, also regulating methods, how you are controlling the humidity of the air, and also what are the making sure that the desired or the humidity is maintaining or not. So until unless you are not testing, you will not understand. Okay. Then if any factory in which humidity of the air artificially increase, the water used for the purpose shall be taken from a public supply or other source of drinking water, or shall be effectively purified before it is so used. So definitely when you are increasing percentage in the air, definitely you need a water to make it humidified or area make it humid. It is simple that you can observe. If you have a cooler in your, especially in the summers, maybe we would have used it. So whenever you are in front of the cooler, if you are in a cooler inside a room, once you come out of that room you will feel that dryness. Or if you are coming from outside, once you enter inside the room where the cooler is running, there you feel some sort of the humidity. Okay, that is what. So here, whatever the water which we are using for that humidification process, the water should be drinking water or any public supply, or shall be effectively purified before the usage. So if it is appears to an inspector that the water used in the factory of increasing humidity, which is required to be effectively purified under the subsection 2, is not effectively purified, he may serve on the manager of the factory on order or in writing, specifying the measures in which his opinion should be adopted and also requiring them to be carried out before the specified date. So if the inspector of factories, he is not satisfied, or if the management is not purifying that water, if the inspector of factories came to his attention, he or she, her attention, then they will give a notice, okay, to the factory manager, so that they have to take the appropriate measures against that order. Then overcrowding. So this is also one important section because it is mostly applicable. So no room in any factory shall be overcrowded to an extent injurious to health of the workers employed therein. So you are keeping hundreds of people. Especially it will happens if any a new movie releases, all the fans will go and get accumulated. Or if you go for any uh, temple or any masjid or any other this thing where you have a crowd for the darshan, there also it will become crowded. When it is extend to injurious, because you're not able to breathe properly, or in other case you are not getting a sufficient fresh air. Because of what will happen, the initially whatever the air which you are inhaling, again you will exhale, that you will have a carbon dioxide. Over a point of time, what will happen, the oxygen has been completely consumed in that specific area, so you will start suffocation. So without prejudice or generality of the subsection 1, there shall be in every workroom of the factory in existence on the date of commencement of this act, at least 9.9 cubic meters, and of a factory built after the commencement of this act, at least 14.2 cubic meters or space for every worker employed therein. And the purpose of this subsection, no account shall be taken of any space which is more than 4.2 meters above the level of the floor of the room. So here it is saying that at least we need 14.2 cubic meters, and also from the floor level above 4.2 meters. The area you should not consider for this calculation, which means the cubic meters. Okay, that is the requirement. If the chief inspector, by order in writing, so requires, there shall be posted each workroom of the factory a notice specified the maximum number of workers who may, in compliance with the provisions of this section, be employed in that room. So he will also mention in a specific room how many of them how many of them can be employed or accommodated. So accordingly, we have to allocate such rooms or facility for the people. Okay. Then the chief inspector may be, or by order in writing, exempt subject to such conditions, if any or as he may think fit to impose any workroom from the provision of this section, if he is satisfied that compliance therein in respect of the room is unnecessary in the interest of health and safety of the workers employed. So if it is not requirement, he can exempt these requirements as well. Okay. Then we have lighting. So this is also very important. We have seen in IS 102 what are the different lux levels we have to be maintained at different workplaces, like inspection areas, packing, or basic uh, walkways, offices, outside, etc. Okay. So in every part of the factory where the workers are working or passing, there shall be provided and maintained sufficient and suitable lighting, natural or artificial or both. So here they are not talking about any specific lux levels. Light we measure in lux, that is the unit to measure the light value or the intensity of light. So here they are telling that every part of the factory where the workers are working or passing, there shall be provided. So it is not about only working area, it is about where the people are working also or passing through. Their cases also we have to provide sufficient lighting. Either
Sir,
it is artificial or natural. When you talk about natural, in the daytime you will see that all the doors and windows, and also secondary level of windows. When we talk about natural, I mean artificial, it is nothing but fixing of external lights, especially in the nights. Okay. Any
sir,
questions? Yeah.
for lux level, the particular lux level to be maintained at certain places. So which rule we have to follow to know the specifications of lux level?
There is a standard, Mohammed. IS standard is there. Just a second. I'll tell you. Exactly. Not able to. Mm,
So for all IS standards, to know the IS standards and all, so which act, like for 1948, it is discussing about the factories and all. So for IS standards, so which book, which guide we have to refer?
No, no, the IS standards are those are independent standards. These are the guidance documents actually.
Okay, if we
Those are
follow national building,
they are independent each other. For example, for each product you will have one specific IS standard. For example, for India flag also there is an IS standard. What will be the color shade? What will be the size of the flag? What will be the each width of the each color? The three colors. So these IS documents are independent each other. These are the guidance documents or procedures to manufacture any specific products or some types of test, or some of them are the recommendations. Like that, it is there. It is nowhere linked with anything. These are the standards for each product, process, or activity. For example, we have OSHAs or NEOSH. NEOSH also they makes the standard for the PPE manufacturing. So for us also for the PPEs we have different types of IS standards. We have one type of standard for ear plugs or ear muffs. We have one standard for completely respiratory equipment, nose mask. We have one standard for different types of gloves, leather gloves or welding gloves or cotton gloves, rubber gloves, like that. Okay. So
okay, sir.
regarding the, yeah,
So like courses like ISO 45001 and National Building Code. So these two discusses about these IS standards, or else we have to follow other.
no, no, these will not discuss about any IS standards. So basically, what happens is, so you're mixing two different things. When you talk about NBC, National Building Code, it is a legal requirement in India. When you talk about ISO 14001 or 45001, those are a non-mandatory standards. Those are completely voluntary. If the company management wants, they can get that certification. If they don't want, it is not mandatory that you should have a ISO 14 or 45001 if at all you want to run a company in India, because those are simply a management standards. For example, 14001, 14001 will gives an idea to the management to maintain the your environment safer, how you are interacting with the environment with your processes. For example, you will create a policy saying that my operations will not pollute the environment, either water, soil, air, etc. So coming to that, you will have a certain set of procedures saying that you have spill management procedure, you have waste management procedure, you have ETP, STP, treatment processes. Then you have stack monitoring or reducing the emissions. You have dust collection systems. Okay, like that. These are independent each other. So whenever you are manufacturing or following any specific activity or manufacturing any product, there you can refer the IS standard. It has to be meet that requirement. That is why you see, I mean, ISA hallmark, any of the product or symbol. So when I say ISA hallmark, definitely you will have a, they would have followed this standard for the manufacturing of that specific product. And NBC, it is a legal requirement. National Building Code.
It is
There it
applicable
is a
for
compulsory.
buildings, right? Not for factories.
Yes, yes.
Thank you, sir.
In factory, you have buildings, right?
Yeah, yeah. Office buildings.
No, no, no. I mean, Mohammed. I mean, did you had an opportunity to read NBC?
No,
Eప్పుడైనా
in
చదివారా?
yeah, yeah. NBC 2016 Part 4, I have referred that. In
Okay.
Reliance Industries, like retail stores, we follow that
Mhm.
NBC 2016 Part 4 for fire safety requirements and implementations.
Okay. In that, you would have seen different types of buildings,
Yeah,
office
Class A,
buildings,
Class B,
commercial buildings.
mercantile.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah,
Yes. Yes. In that, depends on type of the building where your fire safety provisions will be different. Even based on the type of the hazard, with light hazard or moderate or high hazard, your requirement will differ, which means the quantities will be differ. Correct? In
correct.
factories also, it is applicable. For example, in factories, how we see it is an industry building. We'll see based on the fire load, we will come up with it is in a light hazard. Even the emergency exit also will vary. If it is in a high hazard building, where you maximum you have 25 feet, that is the maximum distance you can keep the emergency exit. If it is a low hazard, I think around 40 meters you can keep the emergency exits. Apart from the main entry and exit, you will have these emergency exits from the facility. Anybody can have or can reach within 40 meters to escape from the building. In such a way, we have to provide this emergency exits. Okay.
Got it, sir. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Hope I have answered your questions.
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks. Fine. Regarding the lighting, I have not given the answer. So there are IS 6665 1972 Code of Practice for Industrial Lighting. Okay, I am copying this in chat. If somebody interested, you can read. So there you'll have the standard. I think there are few more also. I'll just yeah, for industries that is the one, and one more is there. The standards were initially introducing. Uh, okay, IS 36461, 36462, and 36463. Okay, this also I'm copying. You can refer these three standards as well. Okay, yeah. So every factory shall glazed windows and the skylights used for the lighting of a workroom shall kept clean on both. Ramu, you are doing something. Okay, okay. Any glazed windows. So it is nothing but the windows where we can get some light, and also skylights just in openings on the top. They use for the lighting purpose shall be kept clean. Otherwise, what will happen if you're not keeping those windows and skylights clean? What will happen? Because of dust accumulation, the light cannot pass properly. And the both inner and outer surfaces, so far as compliance with the provision of these rules made under 3 of the section 13, will allow free from obstruction. In every factory, effective provision shall, or so far as practicable, be made for prevention of glare, either directly from the source of light or by reflection from a smooth or polished surface. This we have discussed in industrial lighting and ventilation chapter in IS 102. So whatever the lighting fixing you have done, it should not reflect or it should not give any glare. Glare is nothing but it is a light intensity or light which gives uncomfortable to see that. It is a kind of flash. I'll take an example of if you are driving a car or two wheeler in opposite a car which is coming with high beam. So what will happen if he comes in a high beam? It is nothing but a glare. Okay, we can't able to see the path properly. Or sometimes what will happen, it directly comes from the light, or sometimes what will happen, it becomes from the reflection. Initially, the light will fall on any polished surface, then it will fall onto your eyesight. That is a reflection. The formation of shadows to such an extent as to cause eye strain and risk of accident to any worker. And second thing is, first thing we have to avoid the glare, I mean the reflection or the high intensity of light. And second thing is, we have to avoid the shadows. So shadow means what? It is a kind of a blind spot or a dark spot where we can't able to see anything. Especially these blind spots happens if you're not position the lights properly, or in a such a position where it can create a shadows. Especially in construction, there is a high chance of formation of these shadows because there is no fixed or standard structures. There is a high chance of these shadows. So, okay, again the state government also will provide the standard sufficient light and also suitable lighting or factories, a class of description of factories for the manufacturing process. Even in the CFOs also, you will have these lux levels. If I am not wrong, we can see that one sample CFO as well. Okay, I think already previously we covered, it seems. Otherwise, we'll see once again. And the next requirement is drinking water. So this is also a common requirement which is applicable for all the factories. So here in every factory, the effective arrangement shall be provided for sufficient supply of wholesome drinking water. So what is the requirement of drinking water? How many liters? How many liters of drinking water we have to provide for each employee? Sorry, how much,
Per day,
Ramakrishna?
5 liters, sir. 5
Okay,
liters, sir.
okay, great. Thanks. It is per day a minimum of 5 liters. That is the minimum. Okay, minimum we have to provide 5 liters. Okay, and also wherever you have this drinking water provisions or the coolers or the water dispensers, where you have to clearly mark it is a drinking water in a language which is understood by majority of the workers. So the people should be familiar with, okay, the language they understood, most of them. That is why in the most of the factories we used to keep in three different languages drinking water. If it is in Andhra, drinking water, then Hindi, then also English. Then employed in the factory, no such point shall be situated within 6 meters of any washing place, urinal, latrine, sputum, open drain carrying the sludge or effluent or any other sources of contamination, unless a shorter distance is approved in writing by the chief inspector. So within 6 meter, you should not provide or make an arrangement as a drinking water point. You should not keep any drinking water point near the toilet facilities. Within 6 meter, you should not keep. For example, your toilets are there. Within 6 meters, you should not keep your drinking water point. Or latrines are there, spittoons are there. Okay, open drains where the sludge and also effluent will pass us through. Any other sources of contaminations, until unless the chief inspector is giving in writing to reduce the distance. Okay, so I'm stopping here so we can continue from the next class. So hopefully, I mean, the classes which we missed on Friday and Saturday, uh, I'll try to take tomorrow or day after tomorrow. I'll check with the institute. So if you're not having, I mean, other lectures, I can take two more classes this week, which we have not taken.